now more women go to university, women get higher grades at university, more women graduate from university. All of the traditional imbalances between men and women have flipped, and very recently.
No, that's
and when
incorrect,
young
because
men,
when you go
may I be allowed
further
to
in the
finish?
business,
Sorry,
that is
I'm talking
not
about men, darling. When
And you call me darling? How
Darling?
incredibly rude. And now you think it's funny. Well, this is exactly the problem. This is institutionalised sexism, and you're just sitting here doing it flagrantly and without even apologising.
Well, we just heard that it was an essential characteristic of men that they were violent a minute ago. So
No,
I guess
we did not. Nobody
That's exactly
said
what
that.
you said.
Nobody said that.
My point
That's just a lie.
We tell children when they're 1 year old that boys and girls are different. We need gender equality so that boys won't be violent, so that boys won't be violent. We need gender equality so that boys won't be violent.
Gender equality does not mean gender equity, but how exactly is it different? This year's theme for International Women's Day is Embrace Equity, and it's easy to assume that that's the same as advocating for equality, but there's actually more to it than that. Equality basically means that each individual is given the same resources and opportunities. But women require more than just a level playing field. Their diversity calls for more specific types of support and rights in all aspects of their lives. Equity recognizes each person's different needs and circumstances, so it gives out the specific resources and opportunities necessary for an equal outcome for all. Inequity affects many people, and not just based on gender. Liz Powers is one of many women entrepreneurs supporting other marginalized communities.
And I heard from the individuals I was working with who are homeless or have disabilities, Liz, I want an opportunity, not a handout.
Liz co-founded Artlifting, a platform for artists to showcase and sell their artwork.
My friends, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared Podcast, where here we talk about people, politics, and popular culture. I'm your host, the one and only Austin Creed, and my friends, I must apologize straight out the gate. I am so sorry for having to subject you to that second clip there. That was painful. Believe me, I suffered with you. It was tough, but we made it. Welcome to the show. I found a very fascinating article that I wanted to break down for all y'all today. The article comes from CBS, NBC News, and it says that the UN, the sterling organization known as the United Nations, says goal of achieving gender equality by 2030 is impossible due to biases against women. Is that right? Well, that is true in certain places in the world. Well, let's see. Do they actually... I am looking for certain countries, certain demographics, certain religions, potentially. Who's to blame for this? Let's look. Who's to blame? The United Nations goal of achieving gender equality by 2030 is impossible. First of all, I don't like this term gender equality. First of all, let me explain something to people who may be unaware because they're uneducated, or they're so indoctrinated they just don't know which way to turn and they are convinced that me saying what I'm about to say is offensive. If you find what I'm about to say offensive, then that just proves you're so brainwashed that you're just becoming a complete oxygen thief and a piece of the tool for the machine in power. But you can't have quality to have equality, you must have quality people. In other words, you must have equal quality to have equality. You see how that works? You see how I connected those two words together? E and then quality means equal. It means to be having equal quality. We don't have that. Because if we did, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Because there's no need to have the conversation if everybody's equally qualified. Because then they're just going to get chosen. Now, if there's instances of racism or discrimination based on, go down the list, nation of origin, religion, whatever, then that should be addressed. The problem is now we've done it in reverse of, you're a minority, or to produce equality, we're going to inflate the equality so that everybody feels equal on the surface, but then when things get broken down a little farther, it starts to fall apart, and if you see that it's falling apart, oh, how dare you? You a bad person. How dare you see with your eyes and not just listen to what I'm telling you to think with your ears. Yeah, don't use your eyes. That's bad. Keep going. I can't even get to the first sentence of this article. The Associated Press, what a sterling organization. And, okay, let's get back to this article before I blow a gasket and we're barely started the show. It's impossible to say their goal is impossible based on deeply rooted biases against women. Well, there are certain places in the world where that is true. Around the world, in health, education, employment, and the halls of power. Oh, you see how they use this last, the halls of power? Okay. First of all, this is equivalent to when, if you ask a woman, for example, you ask a woman, what does she want in a man, right? She'll go down a list. Oh, he needs to be nice and charming and handsome and then have money. You know how she mentioned the money and the handsome part last? They're actually first. Why would I say that? Well, because if you look at the world, it just so happens that the rich and the powerful and the handsome guys have all the women they want, and the dudes who are not handsome and don't have money can't seem to find women. Can't seem to find a partner. Huh. Well, that's interesting, because it has nothing to do with being nice, nothing to do with being charming or whatever. It has everything to do with the last two things that she mentioned, and the first two were just the icing on the cake. But the icing doesn't mean jack if you don't have a cake. You get what I'm saying? And this is an equivalent example of this. When I talk about around the world, the health, education, and employment, those things are important, yes, but this is what they actually want. The halls of power. That's what they actually want. Just look at the fact that I heard Nancy Pelosi might run again, if you can believe it. After she just gets out of power, it's like an itch. People have this itch they must scratch of like, I need power. Oh my God, I can't take it. Just ask AOC, or I like to refer to her as occasional cortex. Ask her. She knows. She's very power hungry. Let's keep going. Again, I barely got to the first paragraph. The world is failing women and girls, says the UN Woman, the agency promoting gender equality. Where's the UN men equality promoting equality? Where's that? I don't. UN Department of Economics and Social Affairs. Let me explain something to you. There are some nations on the United Nations Security Council, like, I don't know, China, for example. How is it the United Nations has a goal of gender equality, but then you look at some of the countries on the most prestigious panels in the United Nations and they actively advocate against these goals they're expressing? That's when you know the UN's a joke. It's a farce, a fraud. It's like a puppet show. It's a silk-suited puppet show. The whole thing, in my opinion, is a fraud. Whatever, let's keep going. It says it's unequal access to sexual and reproductive health, that's abortion. Unequal political representation, again, power. Economic disparities and lack of legal protection. In other words, they're not getting enough of what they want in the legal system. In other words, like child support and stuff like that. Okay, keep going. Prevent other issues. In other words, anything they want to come up with later. They put a placeholder in there for anything that might come down the road later that they might want to add in there. That prevents tangible progress. Okay, can someone explain something to me? We established in that second video that almost gave me it gave me a migraine listening to it, the equality versus equity conversation. She literally says in that in her little clip that equality is not enough. Did you catch that part where it says that equality is only the first step, because once we get equality, we then want equity? Because apparently equality is not enough for women. They want more than equality. They want to be better. They need extra. They don't want just equal opportunities to men. They want better. According to what the woman said. Do I need to play the clip again? Go back and play the clip if you don't know what I'm talking about. Again, this whole notion, people used to not have these conversations, not because they were women, but because it didn't work. No matter whether it was women saying it or men saying it, these ideas don't work. That's the equivalent of saying that the guy who fails the class and the guy who gets 100% in the class both pass the class, because how dare you be better than somebody else? How dare you work harder, sacrifice more? And then that second clip got me so infuriated, because I'm looking at it. It's talking about how they need to give out more of this and give out more of that. Where does that come from? Well, it comes from the government. Yes. Where does the government get that from? The resources, the opportunities? Where does the government get that? Answer, they steal it from the people who have it. In other words, the ancestors of people who built something, the ancestors of people who actually sacrificed and built something, they're being punished for the people whose ancestors didn't. And so it's that same notion of redistributing wealth. And in their attempt to redistribute wealth, they redistribute inequality. They redistribute poverty. Because you can't steal future wealth just in the same way that you can't steal future opportunities from people. You can't do it because it's not possible. Those opportunities can vanish. Let's keep going. The report assesses the progress for women in achieving the 17 UN goals for 2023 on issues ranging from poverty and education to climate change. Oh my. Climate change and human rights paints and a grim picture for the gender gap and the lackluster commitment globally to equality for women. Climate change. Hear this? Because, look, for all of you who love climate change so much and the very notion of me saying that I'm not a believer in man-made climate change offends you, can you kindly explain to me, number one, the Vostok ice core samples, and number two, can you kindly explain to me why there was, I believe, 4 ice ages that came and went before the modern combustion engine that Ford came, Henry Ford, I think it was Henry Ford, came out? Can you explain to me how before the combustion engine of Ford, there was 4 ice ages, and they came and went? Can you kindly explain how that happened? If you can figure out how that happened, you can come to know that the man-made climate change thing is an entire hoax, complete lie, that's put out by what I call the Green Mafia, a branch of the mafia that controls everything that you read, everything that you see, everything that you hear. But of course, me saying that makes me the bad guy, not the fact that it's just objective reality. If you don't like it, well, that's too bad. Go argue with God or with reality. I can't handle this. On a key goal of eradicating, you cannot get rid of extreme poverty. The only way to get rid of poverty is to change the mindset of the people who are poor. Poor is a mindset. Broke is a economic situation. I don't understand where this notion came from. Even Jesus said that to Judas, the poor you will always have with you. You can't get rid of poverty. The only way to help someone out of poverty is to help them get themselves out of poverty. Read Napoleon Hill's books, you uneducated people, you. I'm unbelievably upset with the fact that people are so dumb that they actually believe this garbage. Yes, there are real problems in the world, like this. Okay, fine. Yes, okay, good. They mentioned Afghanistan. Great. I can't help but notice the fact that they don't include every other Muslim nation on the planet. You know, like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, places like that. That they treat women less than the cows and sheep. Yeah, those places. I can't help but notice they're not on this list. Huh. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Yes, it's horrible what the Taliban is doing to girls. That is 100% true. I'm not going to disagree with that at all. It's horrible. But I can't help but notice that they don't mention Saudi Arabia, they don't mention Iraq, they don't mention Iran, they don't mention Syria, they don't mention any other, they don't mention Egypt, they don't mention any other country underneath a Muslim-controlled regime. Why is that? Answer, because people are afraid of Muslims. Not all Muslims, the extreme ones that usually end up running the government. Not all Muslims are bad. I want people to not misquote me. The problem is the influence of the religion and what it actually says in the Quran when it comes to the treatment of women. And that's why you see in Afghanistan, why you see this happening. You think this happened in a vacuum? No, it didn't. Oh my God, are you serious? Oh my, the gender pay gap. Can someone kindly explain to me then why there's this law, I think it was passed in 1964, called the Equal Pay Act? Let me tell anybody listening to this show, whether it's you're a transgender woman or you're a cis woman, whatever terms, I can't keep up with all this garbage. look, if this is true, if you are only earning 51 cents on the dollar and you can verifiably prove that, please go and sue. This is not legal advice, but I would tell you, go and sue and get that money, because under the Equal Pay Act, you are being screwed and your employer is breaking the law if that is true. If it is not true and you're making it up, then you're full of crap. Which is what most people are doing, considering that I'm not hearing more about how these big companies are exploiting women under the Equal Pay Act. The fact that I'm not hearing that probably means that the whole thing is a crock of garbage and a lie meant to make men feel bad over something that's completely fake. And again, if you can verifiably prove this, please go. This is not legal advice, this is personal advice. I would plead with you to go and get a lawyer and sue your employer to get the money back, get that 49 cents that you earned under the Equal Pay Act of 1964. My friends, this is what frustrates me. You see how I gotta deal with looking at the news every day? This is what I'm talking about. People, you wonder why my show is doing better. You wonder why I'm picking up traction despite the fact that Google hates me. You want to know why I'm gaining more traction? Because I speak truth. And if you don't like it, you can choose not to like it. That doesn't make it any less true. My friends, please, I beg you to stop thinking about things from an idealistic perspective all the time. It's good to have vision, it's good to have dreams, it's good to have ambition. But if you can't see reality first, that's like saying, I want to get from here to somewhere else, but I don't even know where here is. It's going to be a little hard to pinpoint on a GPS system where you're going to go. Just in the same way as you're not going to be able to know where you're going in life, you can't even figure out where you currently are. My friends, I would like nothing more than for equality to happen. The problem is, equality has become a Trojan horse. We already have equality. Just because you're not equally represented does not mean that is equality. That is equity. Equity means that everybody should have the same results. Again, with equality, it is up to you to bridge that gap. It's not the government's job to hand it to you. It is not the private sector's job to hand that to you. It is not a college's job to give you a degree to do that. You must bridge that gap on your own skill and your own brains. If you can't do that, then you can't. That's not the man's fault. It's not the white man's fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's yours. If you can't bridge the gap, given all the equal opportunities of everybody else, then that's your fault. I hate to be that direct, but sometimes good medicine tastes lousy. And old Austin Creed here gives you the pill that you need to get straight. My friends, I hope this gave you a little bit of comedy amidst the turmoil we're going in the world today. I hope you learned something that you didn't know before the show. But until next time, my friends, I want to say God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America. We're out of here. Peace. Enjoy your weekend.